A millionaire tied a purebred horse to a tree, deep within a cold, shadowy forest, leaving it as bait for a pack of wolves. But will the horse surrender to its cruel fate, or awaken the invisible strength buried deep within to defy destiny itself? In the heart of this darkness, do you believe that a single, fragile life can rise up and change everything? Can it feel the pain of a human soul, betrayed by the very one it once trusted? And in the end, could this be the beginning of an unbreakable bond forged in love and courage between man and beast? Join us as we unravel this powerful story, where the unimaginable is waiting to be told. Let's begin. The forest was engulfed in darkness. The cold wind howled through the canopy, making the trees sway as if they were invisible hands caressing the damp earth below. The sound of the wind blended with the rustling of dry leaves, creating a mournful melody that only the lonely souls of the forest could hear. The silence in the air seemed to hold attention, as if waiting for something terrible to unfold. Marcus Lowell walked through the darkness, each step heavier than the last, as though carrying the weight of past mistakes. Within the heart of the forest, where there was no light, no life, only the enveloping shadows, Marcus felt like a lost man searching for something, perhaps for redemption, or perhaps simply for escape. His gaze, though determined, occasionally flickered with a sense of confusion, as though he were running from something within himself, old pains, failures in life that he could not escape. He dragged Blaze, the stunning, prized thoroughbred, deeper into the dark woods. The horse, with its gleaming red coat and large, bright eyes, was not just a creature of beauty but a symbol of the failure Marcus had come to accept. A gift from a former business partner, now turned betrayal. A gift that had come to represent nothing but humiliation and rage in Marcus' heart. "You have no worth," Marcus muttered coldly, his voice carrying an eerie detachment. But in his eyes, there was something strange, an unspoken loneliness, a torment he had never acknowledged. The horse was not just a gift from the betrayer, it was a symbol of Marcus' failure, something he could never forgive himself for. As they ventured deeper into the woods, the moonlight filtered through the sparse trees, casting a faint, hazy glow across the ground. The surrounding scenery grew hazy, as if the entire forest were hiding a secret that Marcus had never imagined. A strange feeling enveloped the air. The deeper they went, the heavier Marcus' heart felt, as if some invisible force were pressing down on his soul. Finally, they reached a clearing, where Marcus would tie Blaze to a tree, leaving it to become prey for the hungry wolves lurking nearby. A decisive, cruel act. He tied the horse to the ancient oak, trapping it, giving Blaze no escape. In that moment, it was as if Marcus were seeking revenge on himself, punishing the horse for his own weakness and failure. Blaze struggled, its eyes wide with fear. The horse was uneasy, feeling the impending danger, but rather than panicking, Blaze appeared strangely tense, as though it were facing a threat it had encountered before. Its chest heaved, each breath echoing in the eerie stillness of the forest. Marcus stood there watching the horse, a smirk forming on his lips. He shrugged, indifferent to the fear in Blaze's eyes. "You'll make a nice meal for the wolves," Marcus whispered. "At least someone will make use of you." The howls of the wolves echoed through the dark night, but it wasn't the terrifying sound Marcus had expected. Yes, the wolves appeared, but instead of charging forward to attack, they stopped. One by one, their yellow eyes gleamed in the darkness, quietly observing the helpless horse tied to the tree. They did not approach Blaze. The wolves, as if assessing, looked at the horse in silence. Marcus stood frozen, confused, unable to comprehend what was happening. His mind filled with unspoken questions. Why did the wolves not attack? Why wasn't Blaze harmed? He couldn't rationalize it, but a strange feeling began to rise within him. An unsettling sense of unease, a deep regret that he could not grasp. Then, as the alpha wolf moved closer to Blaze, it did not pounce. It stopped, not to attack, but to observe, as though communicating with Blaze in a language without words. A brief, mysterious moment, and Marcus did not know that he was witnessing a profound symbol of connection between nature, between Blaze, and the wild creatures of this forest. Marcus' rational mind began to unravel. He could not understand what was unfolding, but a strong feeling rose within him, as if he were stepping into a different world, where things didn't always happen the way he expected. The question lingered in the air, heavy with silence. Why had Blaze survived? Were the wolves truly just predators, or was something deeper at play here? As the wolves retreated into the shadows, Marcus stood there, his heart filled with confusion. He couldn't take his eyes off Blaze, and an unexpected question rose within him. Could Blaze really just be a horse, or is there something deeper that he doesn't yet understand? The strange feeling from the moment he faced the wolves still lingered in Marcus' heart. As he turned to leave, his steps heavy, his heart was burdened not only with the weight of past mistakes, but with something else, a new sense of uncertainty, of things left unclear. He couldn't explain the change in the air, the strange understanding that Blaze and the wolves had just shared. Deep down, a sense of unease, a feeling of helplessness about what was unfolding, began to rise within Marcus. He had left Blaze tied to the tree, waiting for its death, yet somehow, the horse did more than endure. It instilled in Marcus a strange, unnerving fear. Blaze's resilience was unlike any other animal he had known. It was not just a horse. Blaze seemed like a mystical creature, filled with an inner strength that Marcus couldn't control, an inexplicable power. "You don't deserve to live," Marcus told himself, his heart still filled with anger and disappointment. He didn't just feel like he had failed Blaze, he felt like he had failed himself. This horse represented all his failures in life, the bad decisions, the lost investments, and above all, the betrayal from those he had once trusted. And now, Blaze was the living symbol of all those things. Marcus couldn't avoid the thought, was he the real betrayer, not just to Blaze but to himself? Was this horse merely a reflection of the weakness he had never wanted to face? Strong and unyielding, this horse, this symbol of his failure, was now bound, and once again, it was facing betrayal, not from anyone else, but from the very person it had trusted the most. The wind howled through the trees, as if trying to erase the unease in Marcus's heart. Each step he took made the disappointment grow deeper within him. But when he turned back to look at Blaze, the horse's gaze still held an odd calm, as though it knew something Marcus could not understand. This time, Blaze did not cower. It did not tremble. Instead, it stood firm, eyes locked ahead, ears pricked, as if it could feel some unseen force, an energy from within that Marcus could not see but felt in every beat of his own heart. Blaze was no longer just a discarded animal, it had become a symbol of resilience, an embodiment of strength that refused to submit to the cruel fate awaiting it. Then, when the wolves approached, what Marcus couldn't believe happened. They did not charge. They did not attack the horse tied to the tree. Instead, the alpha wolf moved closer to Blaze, not to tear into it, but to observe, as if it understood something from Blaze, something that transcended its primal hunting instincts. Blaze was not a victim. It was not a mere prey the wolves could tear apart. It stood there, unbowed and unbroken, like a creature carrying within it an untapped power that the wolves could not infringe upon. Blaze seemed like a being from another world, a place where fear didn't exist, where submission was unheard of. Blaze was a part of nature, a part of a mysterious life force that even the wolves had to respect. Marcus watched in awe, his mind unable to grasp the scene before him. Why had Blaze survived in this situation? Why hadn't the wolves attacked this horse, even though it was tied to a tree and in such a vulnerable position? A sense of confusion and bewilderment washed over him, but part of him also sensed that something greater was unfolding before his eyes. Could it be that Blaze wasn't just an ordinary horse, but something that could communicate with the natural world in ways Marcus couldn't understand? In that moment, a part of Marcus changed forever. He could no longer view Blaze as a worthless object. This horse was not just a symbol of failure, but a symbol of strength that even he hadn't realized. Blaze wasn't just enduring for itself, it was teaching Marcus a lesson in vitality and resilience, a lesson he had never wanted to learn. A part of Marcus began to waver, as though he realized that this horse wasn't something for him to take revenge on, it was a mystical creature that could help him face the mistakes of his own life. Marcus glanced back at Blaze once more, the confusion still dominating his heart, but now he felt a strange urge pulling him back into the deep forest. Not just to face Blaze, but to uncover the mysterious connection between it and the wolves. The strange and inexplicable feeling still overwhelmed Marcus as he returned to the forest, the place where the unbelievable events had just occurred. As he walked past the towering ancient trees, the uncertainty deepened. Everything seemed to freeze in a moment, one that even he could not fully comprehend. Why had Blaze survived? Why hadn't the wolves attacked? As Marcus approached the spot where Blaze had been tied, the wolves emerged silently from the shadows. But this time, the difference was striking. They didn't just stand still, they seemed to be waiting for something. A profound respect was evident in their gaze, no longer the bloodlust of predators, but a kind of reverence for Blaze. The alpha wolf, with thick fur and glowing eyes that shone in the darkness, did not advance toward Blaze as it had before. Instead, it paused, its eyes locked onto Blaze with a strange understanding, as if it recognized something that no one else could see. Blaze was no longer just the horse tied to the tree, it was a creature imbued with supernatural power. A power not from its strong muscles, but from a spiritual force, from a mystical harmony with nature that Blaze carried within it. The alpha wolf did not view Blaze as prey but as a partner in an invisible circle of survival, where all creatures in the wild shared a deep bond. It bowed its head, showing respect for Blaze, as though honoring a supreme power that it could not trespass. Marcus stood there, utterly unable to believe what he was witnessing. The wolves, once the ruthless predators of nature, now behaved like loyal spirits, honoring a creature Marcus thought was just a horse. But Blaze was not an ordinary horse. It was a symbol of immortality, a creature that could not be destroyed by the laws of nature itself. Blaze had become the soul of the forest, a vital part of this magical ecosystem that Marcus couldn't fully understand. The shift in Marcus' mindset was unmistakable. He no longer saw Blaze as a discarded object, but as a magnificent creature with a grand mission. He was not just facing a horse that had been betrayed, but confronting his own deepest fears and weaknesses. Blaze, this horse, was teaching him a lesson he had never been prepared to accept, that life could not be destroyed simply by human cruelty. Marcus stepped closer, and a part of him felt a deep awakening. Each step was no longer a flight from himself, but a journey back to his true self. Throughout this journey, he realized that the connection between humans, animals, and nature was an inseparable circle, and Blaze represented rebirth, the rebirth not only of the forest, but of Marcus himself. Blaze was no longer just a resilient horse, it had become a symbol of eternal strength, a creature with a mission to protect this forest. Blaze's power had etched itself deeply into Marcus' mind, making it impossible for him to return to the person who had once betrayed it. Finally, a magical sensation enveloped Marcus. He no longer just realized the inseparability of Blaze and nature, but he understood that in this moment, he too was becoming a part of the eternal life that Blaze represented. Their bond was not one of dominance, but of a magnificent harmony that nature and all wild creatures had taught him. With each step deeper into the forest, Marcus was no longer a hunter, but a student of nature, one who would protect Blaze, guard this forest, and from that moment on, protect the very life and connection he had never truly understood before. As Marcus stood in the darkness of the forest, a new feeling rose within him. Blaze was no longer just a horse, but a creature with a mission, a symbol of strength and resilience. He began to realize that Blaze was not just a part of nature, but a living link between humanity and this wild world. Blaze stood still, no longer just a horse tied to a tree, but a free spirit, as if it could communicate with the world around it in a way no one else could understand. In this moment, Blaze was not just an abandoned creature, it was a symbol of freedom and invisible strength. The wolves remained, standing silently, not advancing, only observing. Their eyes, glowing golden in the dark, looked at Blaze with profound respect, as though they were aware of the extraordinary harmony between Blaze and nature. With each passing moment, Marcus felt himself no longer merely a passive observer. He began to sense Blaze's presence, not only in the space around him, but deep within his own heart. This feeling was not just admiration, it was a deep connection, a relationship between man and beast that transcended all boundaries of species. Marcus looked into Blaze's eyes, and within them, he saw something he had never noticed before: silent resilience, courage and stillness, a strength that wasn't displayed in loud actions, but hidden within quiet moments. In each breath of Blaze, Marcus began to feel the magic of nature, the harmony between human and animal, and realized that Blaze was not just a horse, it was a guardian of the forest, a being with a purpose, an indispensable part of this circle of existence. In that moment, Marcus was no longer a man driven by power and wealth, but a part of the natural world, where every creature had value and a deep, interconnected bond with one another. The transformation in Marcus was not just about understanding Blaze, it was about the elevation of his emotions, the realization that he and Blaze, as part of this universe, shared a profound connection that went beyond ordinary comprehension. Marcus had once thought of Blaze as a mere discarded animal, but now he understood that this horse had taught him the most important lessons about life, connection, and respect for nature. At this moment, Marcus no longer felt like a master. He was no longer the one standing at the top of everything, but an integral part of nature. Every step Marcus took now was not in pursuit of power, but in the discovery of himself through his relationship with Blaze. This relationship was not just that of owner and animal, but of a symbiotic connection, a bond between man and beast in this wild world. He looked at Blaze and felt a profound compassion, a feeling he had never known before. Blaze, like a symbol of resilience, was not simply a horse tied up, but a creature with a mission to protect this forest, carrying within it a power Marcus had never fully understood. Blaze was a free spirit at heart, and even when bound, it radiated a powerful energy, making Marcus feel the freedom within, the indomitable spirit that he had never seen within himself. In Marcus's heart, the deep connection between him and Blaze was forming, and it was no longer about dependency or dominance, but a beautiful harmony between man and nature. Marcus began to feel a transcendent love, a deep love that came not just from him, but from Blaze's strength and resilience. He realized that Blaze was an irreplaceable part of this life, not just his own, but also of nature itself. Blaze, with its invisible power, was no longer an abandoned horse in the forest, but a free soul, a symbol of life that could never be subdued. With each passing moment, Marcus felt that he was no longer just an observer, but a companion to Blaze on this journey. He understood that their bond was not just between master and animal, but an eternal relationship between man and nature, one that could never be broken. In that instant, Marcus realized that life was not something that could be taken away. It was an eternal rebirth of wild creatures, and Blaze was the soul of that rebirth. Marcus took another step forward, feeling as though he himself was becoming one with nature, and Blaze, this horse, was not just a companion, but a guide helping him rediscover himself, helping him realize that life cannot be separated from freedom and the deep connection to nature. As Marcus stood there, immersed in the quiet of the forest, he felt no longer like a mere observer, but as part of the eternal circle. He began to realize that not just Blaze, but the very nature and the invisible link between it and the wolves were gradually revealing to him a truth he had never understood before. This was no longer just a story between man and horse, it was a tale about life, connection, and the profound relationships between all creatures in this world. Marcus turned around, the towering trees stretching high above, cloaking the sky like a protective canopy over the forest. Everything around him seemed to whisper, sharing with him stories from ancient times that humanity had never known. As he gazed at Blaze, the resolute horse, and the eyes of the alpha wolf, he felt as though he was unlocking a door to a world he had never before dreamed of. He began to realize that Blaze was not just a purebred horse. It was a part of something far greater, not just of this forest, but of the eternal circle between man, animal, and nature. Deep within his soul, Marcus understood that Blaze was a creature of mystical power, holding an essential role in the survival of nature itself. Blaze was not merely a horse in this material world. It was a being capable of communicating with nature in a way that couldn't be explained by logic, a creature that even the laws of nature had to respect. Blaze's eyes held mysteries, like a portal to forces that transcended all physical boundaries. The harmony between Blaze and this forest, with the wolves, was proof that every creature had a role in the cycle of life, a chain of connections that Marcus was just beginning to understand. As Marcus ventured deeper into the forest, his fear began to dissolve. No longer was he a man seeking power or wealth, but a student of nature. He realized that he had been living in a world where connection was the most important thing. The feelings of awe, respect, and compassion he began to feel for Blaze started to radiate within him, transforming the way he viewed life. He came to understand that, among all the things he had once thought mattered, now only one thing remained truly important: the harmony with nature and living in unity with all creatures. Marcus was no longer the one who ruled the world. He was no longer the one standing on top, thinking he was in control. Now, he felt that only harmony and connection with nature were the true keys to living a meaningful life. When Marcus looked at Blaze, he didn't see just a horse anymore, but a vital part of the eternal circle between man, animal, and nature. He realized that Blaze not only endured for itself, but was also a representative for all creatures in nature, a symbol of resilience, overcoming every trial life could bring. Deep inside, Marcus understood that Blaze's existence was a symbol of rebirth, a rebirth not just in nature, but in his own soul. Blaze, with its internal strength, was teaching Marcus that life was not something that could be easily taken away or destroyed. Marcus's awakening wasn't just an awareness of Blaze, but an entire journey of rediscovering himself. From a proud man who only thought about power and wealth, he now realized that the deep connection with nature, with the creatures around him, was the true value in life. Each step he took within the forest was no longer just a journey to find life, but a journey to rediscover himself, to reclaim the values he had long forgotten. Marcus was no longer a ruler, but a companion to Blaze, exploring the mysteries of life that he had never dared face before. He realized that it was the harmony with nature that was the most important thing in this world. Everything he once thought was the pinnacle, the measure of success, now seemed insignificant. And the only thing that truly mattered was the existence with nature, the harmony with all living creatures. As he stood before Blaze, Marcus felt as though the world was unraveling before his eyes. Everything he had once pursued now seemed small and meaningless. Blaze, with its immortal power, had shown him that life was not a battle to win, but a journey of harmony with everything around him. Marcus no longer saw himself as a lonely figure in this world, but as part of the eternal life, as a guide in the profound relationship between man, animal, and nature. And in that moment, Marcus understood that life was not something that could be ruled or controlled through power. Life was an ongoing connection, an eternal rebirth of all creatures in the universe. And Blaze, this horse, was the soul of that rebirth. As Marcus stood there, immersed in the stillness of the forest, he felt that he was no longer just an observer of life, but an integral part of the eternal circle. He began to understand that not only Blaze, but also nature itself and the invisible connection between it and the wolves were now revealing to him a truth he had never comprehended before. This was no longer just a story of a man and a horse. It was a story about life, connection, and the profound relationship between all the creatures in this world. Marcus stood there, amidst the untamed nature, and for the first time, he did not feel alone. What he had once thought were the goals of life, power, wealth, control, now faded into mere shadows in his mind. Blaze was no longer just a forsaken horse, it was a symbol of harmony, the soul of this forest. Marcus understood that true value in life lay not in material wealth or fame, but in the connection to nature itself. The birds soaring in the sky, the sound of the wind rustling through the leaves, all of it was like a symphony of life. Marcus felt the essence of life in every breath, in each glance at Blaze, and the marvelous symphony of nature he had never truly noticed before. He was no longer an outsider in this world. He was part of life itself, part of the eternal connection between humans, animals, and nature. Blaze, though a creature of strength and resilience, was also a model of humility and loyalty. Blaze had taught Marcus that life was not to be controlled, but to be cherished and harmonized. Creatures like Blaze didn't just exist in this world, they were the souls that protected the balance of everything. Now, Marcus realized that the true goal he had been seeking was the harmony between humans and nature. A sense of harmony spread throughout Marcus, from the moments spent with Blaze to his slow, deliberate steps through the forest. With every breath, he felt a deep connection with everything around him. The wolves, the ancient trees, and Blaze, all of them were irreplaceable parts of the eternal cycle of life. Marcus stood in silence, feeling the pure air of the forest, as if he were completely immersed in everything around him. No longer an outsider, no longer an observer, but an integral part of existence. He had found peace within himself, thanks to this connection, a connection that could never be broken. Looking back at Blaze, Marcus knew his life had changed forever. Blaze was no longer a betrayed horse, but a teacher, a guide on the path to finding himself. The lessons Blaze had taught him were not about victory or success, but about harmony and respect for all the life in this world. With slow, yet confident steps, Marcus ventured deeper into the forest once again, but this time, not to search for a goal or a personal victory. He walked as a companion, not just with Blaze, but with nature itself, a companion living in a vast universe full of connections and harmony. And the final question Marcus asked himself, which he wanted to share with all of us, was, do we truly understand and respect the life around us? This question was not just Marcus's personal inquiry, but an invitation to all of us. Perhaps it is time we reflect and gain a deeper understanding of the eternal bond between humans, animals, and nature. That harmony is not something far away, but a reality that we can experience, as long as we have enough patience, respect, and an open heart. And when we do, everything will become clear. Life is not a battle for dominance, but a journey of harmony with everything around us. Blaze had taught Marcus, and perhaps we too will learn that lesson.